Weeks after Spaniards took to the streets to celebrate Spain's victory at the European Football Championships, jubilant fans have been replaced by angry protesters staging daily anti-austerity demonstrations. Following grueling negotiations, the Spanish government returned home in June with a deal for 100 billion in European aid for the country's troubled banks. But this came at a cost. Presented as a victory by Madrid, the aid was conditional on a further round of austerity measures, with a 65 billion package of tax rises and spending cuts triggering a wave of demonstrations across the country. None of these have been more vocal than strikes by the mining community of the northern region of Asturias. There, planned cuts to state subsidies that keep Spain's dying coal industry alive saw thousands of miners stage a long march of over 300 miles to Madrid. Long one of Spain's industrial heartlands, the Asturian coal sector has been in steady decline, eroding the economic base of the traditional communities that have worked in the mines for generations.
Here in Asturias, a protest by 5 miners who spent 50 nights inside a mine has captured the imaginations and pulled together a community which is increasingly facing an uncertain future. The challenge for the government of Mariano Rajoy, Spain's Prime Minister, is how it will cope with mounting social tensions on the streets of Spain, whilst at the same time meeting budget cuts imposed from Brussels.
A fiercely proud and independent community, the miners of Asturias in northern Spain have a long history of militancy, having risen up in 1934 to be crushed by Franco's troops. Away from the picturesque streets of Oviedo, the region's capital, Asturias suffers from high unemployment, with many of those who work in the mines arguing that modern Spain has not provided them with an alternative way of earning a living.
Pues la verdad que si nos cierran la minería, que es la única industria que tenemos en estos territorios, pues es un futuro muy incierto. Como sabemos, no hay previsión de nuevas empresas, de nuevos proyectos industriales en los que nos podemos recolocar, ni nosotros ni nuestros hijos.
For its coal miners, the planned cuts to subsidies, which are steeper than those previously agreed with Spain's socialist government, will wipe out what is left of the sector. Many are now angry about Spain's present and fearful for its future. The industry, however, has long been unprofitable, being dependent on state funds to pay for the miners to retire early after spending most of their productive years working in searing heat several hundred feet below the ground.
I don't think the miners are representative of the Spanish economy or of Spanish labor. They are privileged, they have good salaries, they have security. It just happens that their protest coincides with tremendous frustration in Spain. So I think their support of the miners has more to do with their own disillusionment than any concern with the mining sector.
Mariano Rajoy, who has an absolute majority in Spain's parliament, has remained committed to austerity. The question that hangs over him, as Spain tries to avoid a full international bailout, is whether such severe cuts to an economy already mired in recession will strangle any possible recovery. In a bar in an Asturian mining town, older members of the community expect to see widespread emigration by their children from the region if the mines close, with the local businesses that have been built up around the industry and its workers likely to perish at the same time.
¿Qué va a pasar? Esto queda desierto, queda vacío, o sea, tiene que haber una emigración impresionante. La juventud ya, por supuesto, y esto quedaría con la gente mayor, gente vieja, o sea, y luego la destrucción de puestos de trabajo, un montón. O sea, un montón, porque de lo que queda ahora de minería depende
Claro, no son los puestos directos que tiene la minería, son los puestos indirectos que tiene la minería también, que vive mucha gente. Bar vive indirecto, no todo, pero vive parte de lo de la minería. Si aquí desaparecen las minas, ¿oíste? Como está ayer y como está aquí, desaparecen las minerías, esto queda vacío, aquí no hay nadie, tienes que marchar. Si mi hijo marcha mañana para Alemania y marcha, yo marcho.
The miners of Asturias have vowed to keep fighting to prove they are not a thing of the past. For Mariano Rajoy, he must now battle to convince skeptical Spaniards that they will be able to secure Spain's future.